Hello, welcome to Sarah Overbooked. I am Sarah and I look like I just rolled out of bed, which I basically did. Oh well. We are going to talk about Dark Sisters by Kristi DeMeester today. I read most of this while I was out of town, but I took notes. So with this book, if you don't commit to reading the first 100 pages, you're gonna get nothing out of it. It is a very slow burn. The first 100 pages is basically just you meet the characters and you get to know the characters. Things start happening after that, and it is only 324 pages, so that's a good, quarter of the book. But you just have to basically just get through that, and then things will start happening. It is set up in a rotating timeline from 1751, 2007, and 1953. It rotates through those three timelines pretty regularly until the very, very end. It skips 1953 for a reason. In 1751, we follow Anne. It's her story. Daughter Florence is with her. Anne has learned of the land. She is a healer. She heals the children and the women's illnesses in her village from making poultices and using stuff from nature. And she is about to be condemned and hung as a witch. She knows it's coming. They've been doing hangings. She knows she's on the list, and she also knows that her daughter, being of her blood, will also be hung, even though her daughter is pious and believes in God and is at church every Sunday. It doesn't matter. She is Anne's daughter, and get out of the window. And will be Cody, go. Sorry. And will be hung because she is her daughter. So she contrives a plot to get Florence's fiance to change his mind, and they run off in the middle of the night, just in time, the same night that they were coming to get them, basically. They come upon a clearing with a large walnut tree in it. It's knotted. It looks as if there's faces in the bark. It's already an ancient tree, and Anne decides that this is where they shall now live, as she can feel the power that is emanating in the clearing from the tree. And at 25%, about 100 pages in, that's where you stop. You move on to the 2007 line, where we follow Camilla. I'll be right back. My coffee is ready. I need to put it together. And okay, 2007, we are following Camilla, who is a new adult. I believe she's 18, 19-ish. Still living with her powerful Reverend Father in a high-end community that is basically run by the church. They follow the path. In this community, we find that there is a sickness that affects only certain women in the community. They get sores in their mouths, and they turn gray and wither away. No one has been able to figure out what it is or how it is spread or know who is going to get it or not. We also learn of the story of the Dark Sisters, which is a story that the children tell each other to scare themselves. And the sisters live in the woods, and they are connected with their hair braided together, and will basically take anyone who wanders into the woods alone and eat them. We find out that Camilla and her friends Bianca and Troy throw a party in the same clearing that this old, large walnut tree is in, the same clearing that Anne and Florence had settled in 1751. Party goes badly, as many do in stories like this, and Camilla and her friends fight, basically. A prank is committed and they all end up fighting amongst each other, and it makes Brianna, did I say Bianca? It's Brianna and Camilla be sent off to the retreat, which is where the church sends women that don't follow the path as they want them to. So the ending of this, of the 25%, finds that Camilla has sleepwalked to the clearing with the tree, and it seemingly comes alive. She sees faces in the bark. She swears that it's the two sisters. They're attached by their hair, braided together, and the branches start coming for her, reaching for her, and she screams and runs. And then we move on to 1953, where we follow Mary, a wife and mother of a 6-month-old daughter. She is discontent in her life. She doesn't want to be a stay-at-home housewife mother. She wants to go out and spend time away from the home. She also lives in Hawthorne Springs, the upscale neighborhood where Camilla's father will someday make into his religious neighborhood, following the path. She absolutely loves her daughter. It's not her daughter. She just is discontent with the housewife role that she is in. Her husband understands this and gets her a part-time position in a typing pool. A few days a week she is out of the house and working. One week she covers for a coworker on a Friday, which is not her normal day, and the boss calls her into his office to take dictation, and while alone he starts harassing her with unwanted touching and leering until he's interrupted by a colleague and dismisses Mary, and Mary basically walks out for the day. If she gets fired, she gets fired. It creeped her out enough. She was just gone. So she left, and instead of going home and explaining what happened, she goes shopping and meets Sharon, a salesperson, and is instantly infatuated with her. They go out to lunch. There's a instant connection, and Mary not getting fired whenever she possibly can because she's in the area for work, she stops in the store and is looking for Sharon. One day Sharon asks Mary to go out for a drink after work. One thing leads to another and they kiss. Being a mother and wife in Hawthorne Springs with the religious background, Mary is confused, embarrassed, yet intrigued, and grappling with the reality that she may be in love with a woman. She's not sure what to think or do, and as she's leaving the bar, she sees her best friend Vera across the street leaving a doctor's office. Vera looks at her and walks away hurriedly, leaving Mary fearing that she has seen her and Sharon at the bar together. And that is where the 25% stops and we get more into things. As I said, it's a slow burn. That is about 100 pages worth of stuff. At that point, to me, it starts to get intriguing. Interesting fact, we did find that Vera, Vera, Mary's friend, who we didn't hear anything about until the very end of that section, was also mentioned that Camilla's mother's best friend was named Vera. But that's about all we got. So at that point, we're starting to get connections with the 3 different timelines, with the tree being in 1751 and 2007, and Vera being in 1953 and 2007, possibly. Could be a different woman, same name, but doubtful. And then we go on. I don't have any other notes. I stopped taking notes after that 25%. So this is gonna basically be from memory. I finished this a little while ago, so bear with me. And I'm gonna try to do no spoilers. It might end up being a bit vague. So, the 1751 timeline, Anne and Florence are living in the clearing with the tree. Anne is using the power of the tree, the sap is healing wounds, and they're getting along fine. Along comes a couple of families that were looking for them because Anne had healed their daughters with her poultices and whatnot and saved their lives. And they decided that the Reverend was wrong and they wanted to go live with Anne. So there's now two families and the mother-daughter. The women all feel the power of the tree and they make a pact with the tree, a blood pact. Florence walks in on this and she is still pious and makes a blood pact with the tree, but for another reason. She's angry. She had just also learned about her mother's role in getting her fiance to break up with her. So she is mad. She basically curses the settlement and her mother starts to get sick. Sores in the mouth, wasting away. The other women and young girls, the children, female children, also get sick, but they die from it. And survives, withering away, but living. All the women, the original women, die, and Florence ends up marrying somebody from a nearby town. I'm trying to figure out what I can say that's not going to be a spoiler. The other women in the settlement die from the illness that they're getting, and they are all found at the tree. Finally, Anne feels a compelling urge to go to the tree. So she does this, and as she's doing this, Florence shows, and Florence has started to get sick. She has the sores around her mouth. They have a conversation, and Anne has figured out how to stop the illness. She tells Florence, and Florence doesn't believe her. Florence says, yes, I did make a blood pact, but I am not a witch. I do not believe in that. Her husband comes up behind her, heard the whole conversation, condemns her as a witch, and that is basically their timeline of what I can tell you. In 1953, we'll go to Mary. Her and Sharon are sneaking around and hiding their relationship. They're in love. Mary is not in love with her husband. She's in love with Sharon. So they're sneaking around and hiding their relationship. She invites Sharon to a ball at the church just to get Sharon more into her life so that they don't have to sneak around as much. They're spotted as they are out in the woods in a clearing at a tree, a large walnut tree. And Mary's husband is waiting for her when they get back and insists that she never see Sharon again. And he makes her quit her job. So she's back to being at home alone with her child, who she loves. Mary starts to get sick. She starts getting sores around her mouth, losing teeth. Mary is basically just going through the motions of her life because she's lost the person that she loves. Second most, she loves her daughter the most. And we move on to 2007 with Camilla. Camilla and Brianna are in the retreat, and while in the retreat, we find out that Brianna is starting to get sick. She has sores around her mouth, and she loses a tooth. So they decide they need to get out as soon as possible, talk to Camilla's mother, who said at one point that she had seen the Dark Sisters. Camilla has seen the Dark Sisters. Even though everybody's telling her it was a dream, she believes it was real. So she wants to find out more about the Dark Sisters because she believes it's connected with the illness. So they get out Camilla's father basically takes up all her time, so she doesn't have time to do anything. She's always under watch. And when she gets home, she finds out that her mother is ill. Sora's already wasting away. She is in a bad way. Her mother, when she does actually get to talk to her mother, she still denies the Dark Sisters. When she finally gets to the tree, she goes through some stuff. Brianna and her friend Troy are also trying to help her, but they are being kept away. When she finally gets to the tree, she sees the Dark Sisters, and they tell her their story, which I can't really say anything. I don't want to spoil anything. It's a very slow burn. There are some duller parts of the story, but it's so well written that it kept me going. I'm more of a plot girl than a character study girl, but in that first 25% where you got very little of the plot, you're just learning the characters, the writing itself kept me going. I'm sorry, my arm's getting tired folding that up. The story slowly interweaves itself. You don't get any real answers until the last few chapters, the last maybe 50 pages, maybe less than 50 pages. It's well constructed, well written. The ending, that's where, you know, the witchiness comes out in the ending. I still don't know what I think about how it ended. Yeah, I'm still torn over the ending. It fit with the story, but it felt kind of rushed because it was one chapter. One chapter is all you had, the very ending. It was one chapter and it encompassed everything, and it was only less than 25 pages. It should, in my opinion, have been split into a couple of chapters and given more time. It felt rushed. So I'm not quite sure how I feel about the ending. I still really enjoyed the read. What else do I have to say about this book? It got a little convoluted. I think that was part of the rushed feeling at the end. I'll give some examples of what I mean with the writing. The bonfire leapt behind them, a draft of wind seizing at the sparks and casting them upward. Camilla followed their trajectory and wondered if she would spend the rest of her life categorizing her future self around this night. What she had and had not done, and what that meant about her. If it meant she was as empty as she sometimes felt, a carcass built of rot. I'd spent my entire life with my hands in the dirt, learning from what grew there and the creatures that drew life from it. The chorus of my girlhood was learning the steady hum that lay at the core of the world, a power so many people could not sense because they would not take the time to do so or feared it meant there was no use for their god. Those who would shy away from blood or death because they saw it as evil rather than the natural order of things. They labeled me witch because of it. I could not wear such a name there, but perhaps, with such a power perfuming the very air, I would wear it here. There was a power in naming, and I'd been running from my own name for too long. It struck me that the tree had always been there, biding its time, casting deep roots that drank from pools that were older than any man could comprehend. There were spaces in this world that held an ancient power, and this was one. The bark ran in discordant lines, looping back in on themselves before scattering. It looked like heads hacked off at the neck, like mouths opening wide to scream, a hellscape wrought in wood. If this was a nightmare, she was awake inside it. She could not move, could not scream, could do nothing more than stare up at those blank eyes, at the tangled braid that connected the Dark Sisters and made them one body, at the blank hollow of their mouths, their broken, missing teeth. They were the monsters. Camilla was the thing that was supposed to run. Sharon's mouth tasted of honey, of rosemary, of a lovely thing Mary had not known she was thirsty for, and oh, God she wanted to drown in it, to let herself die and be reborn in the way baptism never allowed. She knew then what she was, what she denied for so long because of what it meant, of how she would suffer for the truth of it. And there you go. That is review, probably a little confusing, of The Dark Sisters. I enjoyed it. The ending felt a little bit rushed, but it read well. I liked it. Not one of my favorite reads of the year, but it was good. And there you go.